Hey everyone, I'm doing this video now because I can't do very many shooting videos, I'm gonna just do some of me talking. I'd say about self-defense and all that stuff. This one I'll call "Should Christians Carry?" Because I know a lot of people, a lot of Christians wonder, should I carry, or is it right for me to carry, all that. Well, for example, I know of a pastor who actually preaches from the pulpit and has a sidearm on it, and has a sidearm pistol on him, concealed of course. But one I've heard somebody ask, is he expecting trouble or something? Let me address that later on. I'll just get down to should Christians carry. Now, I already addressed the one argument. Well, that some people, those that say that Christians shouldn't carry, they give like that I have heard. They give two arguments, or can give two arguments. The one about thou shalt not kill, one of the commandments, which is a valid point, but I already addressed that in the other one. It's talking about murdering or needlessly killing, not just not defending yourself or defending others. Now let's go look at the second one. There's a verse that Jesus himself said, or addressed this. You've heard the phrase, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. Well, Jesus sort of said that in Matthew 26, verse 52. If you want to look it up for yourself, Jesus said, "Put up again thy sword into thy place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword." So, yes, it's a little bit of a summary. They pretty much summarized it, but they didn't exactly quote Jesus. But yes, he did say, "Live by the sword, die by the sword." But you got to look at what happened. Jesus had just been betrayed, and the Pharisees and those that were going to take him were moving in on the Garden of Gethsemane to take Jesus. And Peter whips out a sword and stabs at Malchus, cutting off his ear. So Jesus turns to Jesus and told him, put up your sword, live by the sword, die by the sword. Again, an abbreviation. Now, in light of what happened, you got to think of what Jesus is talking about. He is not saying, you use the sword, you're going to die by a sword. Because, number one, using that line of logic, you live with a car, you're going to die with a car, right? You live with a lawnmower, you're going to die by a lawnmower, right? You could just keep going on and on with that line of thinking, but look at what Jesus is really saying. I'm not just throwing my own beliefs in. Just stop, read it, and think about what happened. And think of what Jesus is saying. Those who live by the sword. Not who have a sword, but those who live by the sword. Those who use this as a means of life. Weapons is... They live for weapons. And exactly that. Holy cow. Jesus here isn't just talking about having a sword. You have a sword, you're going to die by the sword. He's talking about a good picture of what Jesus is saying is the gang mentality. If you live to kill, if your sole purpose in life is to kill people, then you will die. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Not live with a sword. Live by the sword. You don't control the sword controls you. That is what Jesus is talking about here. And hey, if you don't take my word for it, and you don't trust me, you don't agree with me, study on your own. Think about it on your own. Yes, Jesus says not to kill. Yes, he says not to... yes, he says live by the sword, die by the sword. But look at... Now, look at, if Jesus says live by the sword, die by the sword, and just blanketly means like own a sword, you're going to die by it, consider what he said in Luke 22, verse 36, where he said, where he told his disciples, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. Okay, so Jesus told them, if you don't have a sword, sell the shirt off your back and get a sword. So, if Jesus meant, if you have a sword, you're going to die by it, then he just contradicted himself. And if you know theology and all that stuff, you know that God can't contradict himself. Jesus is part of the Holy Trinity. God can't contradict Jesus, and Jesus certainly can't contradict himself. So Jesus is not saying it is wrong to have a weapon. He's saying it's wrong for a weapon to have you. You can control a weapon, it's fine, but if the weapon controls you, then it is wrong. That is what Jesus is talking about. If you want a picture, if you want a visual illustration, think about gangs, the gang mentality, the gang life. That is what Jesus is talking about avoiding, not being like, say the soldiers of this country are all the soldiers in this country are all unscriptural. Because they live by war, right? No, they live in defense. They fight for defense. They don't fight to kill. They fight to defend. There's a difference. So, yeah. So there is that side of the argument, but there's also the way to combat it. So, if you ask me, I have a gun channel. What do you think the answer is going to be? But I think, yes, Christians should carry. Now, should every Christian carry? That is up to them. Go back to square one. I don't care if you're a Christian or atheist. Go to square one. Run through that before you ever buy a gun of any kind. Or think of carrying. Go through square one and think through that. But also, seriously, if you're a Christian, ask God about it. I mean, yeah, God knows everything and all that, right? So ask him. If you feel like a lesser Christian for carrying a firearm, if you don't feel like if you feel like there's a wall in between you and God because of a gun of carrying, then don't carry. So that's answering the question. Should Christians carry? I think so. Should you carry? That's not for me to answer. That's for you. And as always, I'll remind you to walk a Christian walk and carry a loaded Glock.